Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're keeping it simple, no intro, no nothing like that. We're gonna dive into my updated quarterly review. I've made a lot of changes to this since the start of the year. It's been a hell of a long time since I've done them. I'm getting back into the swing of things with YouTube this quarter. I know I said that last video, but it's actually happening this quarter. So let's go ahead and let's dive into the review.
I've said it before and I'll say it again, make this process a vibe. Make it something that is really pleasant and really enjoyable for yourself. I do that by setting out some drinks, maybe it's coffee, maybe it's wine, kind of depends on the time of day when I do this. Get myself some water, get myself some food, light a candle, and inevitably cue up a favorite playlist so that I can really enjoy this process. You guys know I'm not a pen to paper human when it comes to this process. I am at my desk and diving into Notion. I can do this on my iPad, but I tend to prefer to do it on my desktop because I have a really freaking massive screen. So let's go ahead and dive in. When I do this process, I usually do it around the same time I'm doing my weekly and my monthly reviews. The weekly takes about 20 to 30 minutes. The monthly also takes about 20 to 30 minutes. The quarterly is a little bit longer. In a nutshell, this can become a very long process. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna show you the quarterly today because I've recently touched on the weekly and the monthly in my recent videos. So once I get myself situated and take care of any of the inevitable Notion distractions that might arise, then I start by asking myself some review questions. I saw this in another template and I wanted to give it a try, and so far I've been really enjoying it. Now you're gonna very quickly see that I change clothes, the lighting changes, because I very quickly realized on the day I was planning on doing this that I just didn't have enough time to do it, so I had to restart it again a day later. I actually ended up completing this on the 2nd of April, and I just wanna throw that out there because I think it's really important to realize that you can have every intention to do a reset, but that reset does not have to happen on the 31st, it doesn't happen to happen on the 1st, it doesn't have to happen on the last day or the first day of the respective quarter for this to be effective. If you don't get around to this until, the end of the week or whatever, that is okay. This process is still going to be effective for you. That is absolutely okay. After I do the review questions, then I dive into these more specific questions that are about my gratitudes, my accomplishments, and my significant moments. This is actually very similar to a process I'd already been using. You're going to actually see a point later where I realize there's a redundancy and I consolidate it all down. But this I just find to be a really good way to take a broad scope overview on how your quarter ultimately went without focusing on the negatives and without having blinders onto the areas that were challenging and that went wrong. It's a really good balance of both, but also keeps you in a really positive mindset. I've also been playing around with trying out some manifesting. I will be the first to admit that I am not a huge manifester, but this is one of those things that I wanted to try because ultimately it was kind of like what harm could it cause? So I've been playing around with it, TBD on if it's something I'm gonna keep, but thus far, it's working out okay. And now we come to the part that has literally been with me since I started doing reviews. I mentioned this in the previous video. This is the what worked, what didn't work, and what can I improve part of the process. I do this every week, every month, every quarter. Does it become redundant? Yeah, at times, but I will never argue with the information that it helps me gather about my life so that I can really make very strategic and targeted changes. And I've got this system down pat at this point in time because I ask these questions on a week-to-week basis. So each month I gather the patterns and information from the weeks prior, and then each quarter I gather the information that came up in the monthly review. So I'm really able to use the information to build on itself to draw my attention to those patterns that are important for me to know about.
And you might be wondering, why the hell do I do such a long process? Why do I have so many redundancies in this process? And the reason is because what's coming is going to be where I set my goals. And the reason why I do all of this work up front is to really make sure, as much as I possibly can, that I am setting goals in the places that I need it. I think sometimes we can really fall into the pattern and the trap of setting should goals that we feel like, we have some sort of an obligation to set, or goals that we're just kind of being a little too externally influence to set. But when I'm gathering all of this data to really help make sure of the fact that when I set my goals for the subsequent quarter, they are the right goals, they are meeting me where I'm at, they're really what I need to get myself and my life kind of course corrected and back on track. That is really why I do all of this.
And that that really brings me to the actual goal setting part of this process. I use a tool called a life wheel. You can find free versions of these online, and I've gone ahead and linked in the description below the ones that I tend to use. And I use this life wheel as a visual representation and a quantitative numerical way, because I am kind of a nerd, to really see where I'm at in the various different parts of my life. So that little graphic on the screen, I went ahead and scored myself, and then I do a little explanation of why I gave myself these scores. And then I also ask myself what it would take for me to feel closer to a 10 in these different areas of my life, because those gaps, those places where I'm not quite where I want to be, helps me reveal what are the goals that I have, what are the things that I want to work on, and it also helps me pinpoint what areas of my life I'm going to be focusing on for the upcoming quarter. Because the fact of the matter is, we can't focus on every single area of our lives each quarter. That is going to be overwhelming. It's going to feel like too much. So I like to pinpoint and narrow my focus on 2 smaller areas of life, or fewer of the areas of my life, to really help me feel more targeted and frankly less overwhelmed. Now, you might actually be wondering in this section how I actually go about picking the areas of my life where I'm going to set my goals. And I have a tried and true long time strategy for this as well. What I tend to do is I really try to make sure there is a balance of areas that I've been doing really well in and areas that I've been struggling a little bit more in. I find that if we set goals in all of the areas we've been struggling in, it's harder for us to create momentum. So I try to do half and half of areas that I'm feeling really strong in and areas that I am struggling a little bit more in. Now, at this point, the hardest work of this process is kind of over. I've done all of the logistics. I figured out where I'm going to set my goals. Now it's really about defining what those goals are and integrating them into my systems. This is where all of the different aspects of my Notion systems come together, because not only do I set the goal, I establish what area of my life it applies to. I link it to that area, and then I link in and pull in the objectives and projects that I already have running or that I've already kind of started thinking about into my existing Notion systems. It is really the get organized part of the process. Now I start planning my quarter. Now that might be crazy. Like, you haven't started planning your new quarter yet? No, I haven't. All of this has been review and reflection, kind of setting the stage for the upcoming quarter. And then once I've set my goals, I go through and I answer some prompts and some questions to help break down my goals more specifically into what the personal intentions are, what the business goals are, what the self-care and self-discovery goals are, and really trying to make sure I'm connecting those things back to the overarching goals that I just set. I then take everything that I've just done for the quarter, which frankly doesn't take very long, and I do the same thing for the month. We're in April now, so really what I do is I repaste those goals at the top of my April planner, and then I break down what are the tasks and intentions and goals that I have for April to drive me toward that goal. I basically think of it like a funnel. I take my goals for the quarter, and then on the month scale and then the week scale, I break those goals down so I'm really intentional and really clear on what I'm working on to drive me toward the goals that I'm trying to create. I then take those goals for the month, paste them into my HQ page so that I can see them, again, keeping them front of mind. And then eventually I'm going to go in and break those into weekly goals, as well as the things that I'm going to then work on in daily actions. Again, it's like a funnel. We're just narrowing it down more and more to get clearer and clearer on the things that I'm going to be working on day to day.
Remember, if you see anything that you like, comment, and subscribe if this is helpful to you. You can always head to the description to check out my links to any of my important Notion templates, Notion memberships. Any way I can support you with Notion, go ahead and check that out in the description. This is going to be, as I said at the beginning, something I'm getting more consistently back into once this quarter kicks off. I've got a whole schedule. I got a whole game plan. So definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.